Hey everybody, welcome. This is Dr. Mark Arcuri again this evening in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I'm just noticing as I sit here that I'm wearing the same shirt I think that I've worn in the past, I don't know how many videos. Uh, Not consecutively, but enough of them. And you ever have a piece of clothing or something that you just love so much you don't want to get rid of it? And this is one of those shirts. It's a Banana Republic shirt. In all fairness to Banana Republic, it's not new, but it's got holes in it. And I just want to be comfortable when I'm at home, and I'm here in my home in Santa Fe, and want to be comfortable and want to wear what I'm comfortable in and just love it. So I am here in my holy shirt and coming to you live tonight, and thank you for being here. So, or whenever you happen to be watching. So, Paradise Rediscovered, Chapter 2. This chapter is really fun for me. When I first conceptualized writing it, it was a chapter that was very difficult for me. And the reason it was difficult was because the title of the chapter came to me, and it sounded kind of cool. But as I thought about it, I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense, or in my logical mind, it didn't seem to be true. So the chapter of this title is "They Are Not Here to Meet Our Needs." And so I covered up my eyes there, but they are not here to meet our needs. That's chapter 2 of Paradise Rediscovered. And so who's they, and what do you mean they're not here to meet our needs? Isn't everybody here to meet our needs? And if you remember back to chapter 1, and also in prior conversations in general, that I've always talked about this idea that we come into this world knowing exactly who we are. We know who we are, we know what we need, we know what we are, we know where we're going, and somewhere along the way, in like the first hour of our breath, first breath we take in the first hour of our birth, we begin this deprogramming process, and we're kind of taken out of all that knowing, and it's put aside, and our parents and caretakers, whoever it happens to be, start kind of teaching us about the world in this very benevolent way. They want the best for us, most of the time. I can't say that for everybody, but they want the best for us, and they want to teach us what we need to know and help us along. But then that gets us into this sort of a number one, as we've said before, into this idea and this notion of the world that may or may not be true for us, and in most cases really isn't true for us, because it's based on someone else's experiences and viewpoint and what they've come to learn in their own lives. But we're kind of deprogrammed and programmed into something else that other people want us to be and do and have. But then we also have this idea that we begin to develop this a dependence, I guess is the word I'm looking for, a dependence on other people, in that in forgetting who we are, we also forget that we already know who we are, and we already know how to be, and we already know how to get our needs met. And we, in thinking that we have to learn these things from other people, begin to become dependent on those other people, until at least the age where we begin to reclaim that independence and individuate and move away from the family, and become a more of a self-centered, in a good way, self evolving and revolving being. So in creating that sense of being who other people think we should be, we also become dependent on them, because we forget that we already know how to take care of ourselves. And the reason that this title was a little bit counterintuitive for me when I came up with it, was that it seemed to me that as a baby, as an infant, as someone just coming into this world, well, of course we are going to depend on other people, and of course they're here to meet our needs. They have to feed us, they have to clothe us, they have to um, take care of whatever our daily requirements are, or else we're not going to survive as an infant. And that's exactly true. We do come into this world in that state of neediness, in some very tangible ways. But when I say that they're not here to meet our needs, I'm thinking more in an existential way, more in a deeper, more spiritual level, that we somehow believe that other people have to guide us through this world in a way that we can't do for ourselves. And that's where the error in our thinking comes in. We have to kind of reclaim that notion that there is this core sense of who we are that that does teach us what we need to know. And for me personally, it wasn't that many years into my beingness that I realized that I was gay. And in coming to that understanding, of course, I didn't understand what that meant when I had the senses that there was something about me that was a bit different from most of the other people around me. And oddly enough, that was the same as some people around me that I never knew back then and that I know now. But there was a sense within me when I was too young to really understand what it meant, that there was something about me that was being molded into something that really wasn't who I was on a very, very core, deep inner level that I couldn't understand back then, but I knew in the way that I felt that that was going on. And that's when I first started to understand that the people around me were not necessarily there to meet my needs. They might not be able to meet my needs because of their own. This is back in the 60s. So I was born in 1961. So say in towards the latter 60s, when my thinking brain was evolving and I was experiencing the world in a way that I was beginning to kind of put together and make some sense out of for myself. That these people around me weren't necessarily there to meet my needs because they couldn't. They couldn't understand yet who I was on that core level, and didn't know how to nurture that, because if they saw it, they didn't know what to do with it, so they sort of just made believe it didn't exist. And in that understanding, I think I go back to this idea that they are not here to meet my needs, because when I was presented with enough of a insight into me being different in some core way than many of the people around me, I knew then that I had to find a way to get back in touch with that essence of who I was and to begin finding my way through the world on that level. It didn't mean that I didn't take advice from people and I didn't have people who were trying to teach me the ways of the world. But I had to be able to decide what of those teachings made sense and which ones didn't. And that process of getting a sense of who I was inside that I couldn't yet express very well and that other people didn't necessarily see and or understand was the beginning of that individuation for me. Because I knew that there were certain things about the world that I was being taught that just didn't resonate on that core level. It didn't make sense to me. And I didn't know how to resolve that back then, but I knew that there was something going on, and I had enough insight and maybe enough sense of myself, even if I didn't understand it, to listen and to say, okay, I don't necessarily understand this right now, but it's still important. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It just means that I don't understand it yet. And let that be okay. And I would bet that every one of us has had that experience in our way. So for me, it was around being gay. For somebody else, it could be around being a certain gender and having certain gender expectations that were accepted or not accepted in the family or with other caretakers or in social settings. It could be anything. And I'd love to know what that is for you. If you scroll down right now and just let us know. What was the core experience that you could remember when you were younger that allowed you to begin questioning whether the story of the world that other people, again, in most cases benevolently, that other people were teaching you, what began to kind of question that for you, that there might have been something within you that was different enough on a deeper level about anything that made you question what people were trying to teach you. So I want you to begin thinking about this week, because I'm thinking about that this week because I think it's incredibly important. It's incredibly important in understanding yourself and who you are to go back and try to identify what that was, or what some of those things were, if it was more than one thing. What was it that really started to not quite fit, that gave you angst? What was it that you went to bed as a kid crying about at night and didn't really know why or what, but there was something that just didn't sit well with you, and it upset you so much that you couldn't help but react. And now with your more mature mind, with your adult mind, going back and thinking about what that was, how do you understand it now, perchance? And make a note of that, jot it down, think about it, let it percolate during the week, and just see what you come to, because that event or events or aspects of you, whatever it might have been, is such a key clue to who you really are that it can't be missed. For me, it defined so much of how I was going to move forward in my life. And not just because of sexuality or sexual orientation. It had to do with my personality development and the kind of person that I'd like to think I've become and am still becoming. But as I've developed the compassion for people, the sensitivity to people who are different than a lot of other people and different from me. And the ability to kind of think through that a little bit more objectively than I might have otherwise, and I certainly was taught to when I was young. And it gave me a sense of wanting to relate to the world in a certain way based on my own experiences. And it was so core, so important in my development. So I want you to think about that this week. If you had to think about this notion of that they are not here to meet my needs, there you go, what might that have meant? So of course they were there to meet your needs in certain ways, but when you began to diverge from those basic needs and they couldn't meet your needs anymore, what were those needs? And how did you eventually come around to solving that dilemma? Could still be going on. You know, it is for me on certain levels, absolutely. But chances are you've come a long way as well. So scroll down right now in the comments. Let us know, what was that experience for you? What do you think it might have been? What are you thinking just in general about this conversation? And let us know, because I think it's such an important part, and that's why I put it in the beginning of Paradise Rediscovered as a second chapter, to begin getting that sense of what is my life story, how is it different from everybody else's, and how because of that was I put in a position where I realized that the people that I developed a dependency on and were there to meet my needs really couldn't in some very core way. Before you go away tonight, in addition to scrolling down, be sure and sign up for our monthly free giveaway. This month in May 2019, we're giving away a couple copies of, or I shouldn't say a couple copies, that was last month. We're giving away a free invite to our e-course, which will be announced very soon, a Life Aligned e-course. So I can't wait to give that away. And you can sign up for our newsletter, sign up for the monthly giveaways that we have every month, and also get lots and lots of free downloads over at drmarkarcuri.com. You'll see the spelling of that at the bottom right-hand part of your screen. And there's a resources tab and then free downloads. Also on that same resources tab, you'll see lots of videos that we've posted over time about all different topics, as well as the recap of the Life Aligned videos that we did, a Recipe for Living videos, and now the Paradise Rediscovered videos. So check those out. Lots and lots and love and gratitude from Santa Fe, New Mexico this evening. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to your comments and the opportunity to respond to each and every one. Thank you so much. Ciao.